GUSH Apparel. All right, let's start with that. How did you come up with the name GUSH Apparel?
Well, GUSH is the acronym for grind until something happens. And, the reason I wanted to go with that name is I felt like ever since like a little kid, I come from immigrant parents. My mom had to work 3 jobs. We were very poor. So everything I've ever achieved in life as a kid and then into an adult in like corporate world and everything, I did it by grinding harder than anyone else. So, I felt like number one, it was a good same thing with the business. Like I was gonna have to use that same mentality to start a business from scratch. But also I feel it ties into a lot of things that like people do, like work out, like people who go fishing, people who like pretty much any industry has its own version of grind it until something happens. So I felt that it fit for like if we want to do things for other people too, kind of like the
Definitely.
just do it.
Yeah. And you have a business partner, and you
Correct.
said it's your childhood friend. Can you
Yeah, my
talk about that a
childhood
little bit?
friend from New Jersey, because at the time I had quit. I've been in corporate for over 20 years. I was in management for about 15 of those. And it got to a point where I was burnt out and I did something really insane that I don't advise anyone to ever do, which is I quit my corporate job without having a job. And honestly, I didn't know what I was going to do. So initially, well, I sort of thought I did. I was going to take a break because I felt I was too burnt out. And then I was just going to go back. Like I was going to take a month or two break and then I'll find something else. But in that time I was off, I started like Googling a lot of things like businesses and businesses you could do from home. And then apparel came up. First, there was a lot of screen printing. Then I ran into DTG printing. It seemed
Hmm.
very interesting and doesn't seem hard. Like at least from the videos, it looked easy.
Yeah.
So, um, so my wife, who I don't understand how she agreed to let me quit and didn't kill me, I then had to go to her and then ask her for one more favor, which is take the last of our money and invest it into a machine for a business that I knew nothing about. So she
hang on,
luckily
hang,
said
hang
yes
on,
again.
hang on, Gabe. Yeah, I want to go back to because you had mentioned that you were in the corporate business for 20 years. How does one go from being in the corporate business for 20 years to just quitting and jumping into something that they pretty much know nothing about? Like, what was that process like for you? And if you don't mind, like real quick, you
Yeah.
don't have to give in detail, but what did you do for 20 years that you got burnt out on that you wanted to make a switch?
Okay, so the one thing that I do feel it went in with how I've been my whole life is like I said, the first thing I wouldn't advise, I've never quit a job without having another job. That doesn't tie in. But what it does tie in is anything I've ever done, if you look at my resume, pretty much when I was young, like around 20, I started working on Wall Street. Did that till I moved to Florida. I grew up in Jersey and I worked in New York. Then when I was here, I got into the armored car business. Then after the armored car business, I got into the payment processing business for like the largest utility here in Florida. And all of those, I knew nothing when I started. So
Hmm.
where I say it does tie in is when I started the business, like going from corporate that had nothing to do with apparel, and I never worked at like a store and retail, like nothing. That part at least fell in line. Like that's where I think my wife had confidence in saying yes. Is now that whatever I put my mind to, it's gonna happen.
Uh-huh.
So I think in that sense it tied in, but for me, it was just look, when you're in management, you don't work 9 to 5. You're usually the first one there, the last one out. You get called on the weekend. So it's just the work life balance being in management is what finally was like, I just couldn't anymore. For the 3.5 years leading into when I quit, I was averaging about 80 hours per week.
Hmm.
I was working what people do in 2 and 1. So I
Hmm.
think that I missed a lot of my kids' life because I was never around. I'm up
Yeah.
before they're awake, home after they go to sleep, and I just didn't want that anymore. I think that was the
Hmm.
fight when I finally got fed up at the end of 2018. I just woke up one day, and when I was supposed to go to work that Monday, I don't know, something in my stomach. My look, I live my entire life, both in personal and corporate. I live it by my gut. I can live with, let's say, making a decision on my gut and being wrong. Okay, fine. Like, and I'll learn from that. but I don't ever want to live with the regret of not listening to my gut and being wrong. So
Mhm.
I woke up that morning, something just said no more. And I turned to my wife because we actually worked at the same place. When we
Mm.
quit, we were working at the same place. And I turned to her, I was like, I can't do it. I'm not going to work. And she's like, what do you mean, today? And I'm like, no, like, I think I'm done. Like, I want to quit. Her
Right.
eyes got big. And then she's like, are you serious? I was like, listen, man, I just feel like I'm going to end up in a hospital. Like, I was just miserable, miserable. And look, I asked when I was leading it to make a decision. Obviously, I spoke to my wife. I had spoke. I'm one of those. I will ask a lot of people for their 2 cents, but in the end, even if what I'm thinking goes against what everybody else advised, if
Mhm.
I just feel it in my gut, I'm doing it because I have a thing that I tell everybody: look, when you go in that coffin, you're put in there by yourself. So you got
Right.
to do the things that make you happy. You got to live with your own decision. So I asked, obviously, friends, family, they're like, are you nuts? You're going to leave a 6-figure job. You don't even have a job. Like, that's insane. Like, and I know it is, but I just couldn't. And
Mhm.
honestly, like I said, I would still advise anyone now, even though I did do it. It was insane. Like, you should not quit your job. Like, I think I should have done it. Like, obviously, I've known you for a little bit.
Mhm.
You have your own brand,
Mhm.
you have your job, and you're doing your brand. Like, that's the
Right.
smart way to do it because I added a lot of pressure to me and my family because I
Sure.
went from, at least on my part, what I contributed, from 6 figures to 0 figures, like instantly. And that's a huge hit on my kids, on my wife, and her becoming like the sole like provider while
Yeah.
I'm grinding out trying to make this happen. So, um, like I said, in the sense of it fit in with everything else I did in my life, which is everything I've ever done, corporate or in my own business, I never did it, but I like it that way. I feel you look at something through fresh eyes if you've never done it.
Mhm.
And like everything in, let's say, in the apparel industry, I'm always asking why, I'm always asking questions. So I feel like that helps me learn where, if I don't know, maybe if I had worked for Perry Ellis for 10 years and started my own business, I might have had some blinders on and treated my business doing it the way I've been used to doing it.
Mhm.
So, scary, but thank God for, it's gotten better and it's panned out because, man, I think my wife could have left me. Like, I'm just kidding.
And
No,
she
like
stuck by you. But
she's an angel. Like, again, I
yeah.
don't know many partners that would have said, okay, go ahead.
Right. And so with that, going back to when you said you were working a lot of hours, you weren't, getting called out on the weekends, all that stuff. I think some people might say, well, as an entrepreneur or as a person who runs their own business, you're working still a lot of hours. You're putting in overtime without getting paid for that overtime. What's the difference for you?
And you're right, and it's actually more. I'm working more now than when I quit. But I think the difference for me, I make every decision. And where when I was in management, look, the last position I left, I was VP of operations. I had a lot of, I guess, say in things, but at the end of the day, it was not my business. I still reported to a CEO, right? So let's say, as me, as the guy in operations doing everything on the ground, I'd make a suggestion. If they don't want to hear it, they don't want to hear it. And even if it makes the business better, there's a lot of, like red tape when you're in corporate. Like, there's a lot of hoops you got to jump through, where here I make a decision. I think that's it. Like, what I say is what it is. And
Hmm.
again, it's not to say that I'm always right, but I just feel, being in corporate for a long time, I've seen a lot of businesses run in a way that, let's say, don't appreciate their employees, or there's not a good culture, where I feel now I get to instill all the things I've learned along the way about leading teams, running a business, and at least now it's for me.
Hmm.
So I think that's what is a huge difference. And you're right, because it's never over when you're an entrepreneur. I can get DMs at 1 o'clock in the morning. If I'm up, I answer it. Where your corporate job isn't going to DM you at 1 a.m. So,
Hmm.
but again, it's for myself that this, I get to make all the decisions and I have final say in those decisions. So I think for me, and I get to pick and choose. For example, I can work 7 days a week or work 15 hours, but I can pick my spots. If I go pick up my kids from school and I want to spend 2 hours with them, I do that. And then where in a job you can't do that. So I think I feel it's also the flexibility of running my day or my weeks the way I see fit that fits in with my family.
And you probably feel happier doing that. You
I
probably feel
do,
a little
man.
bit.
And like obviously with my business, I'm running it right now. I converted it was like an apartment that was attached to my house. It's like called a mother-in-law suite. I converted that into my shop. So I'm here every day. I see my kids, you know what I mean? Like when they were being homeschooled, they had a question, I'm helping them, with their school during the day. I feel like I'm more connected to my family.
Mm-hmm. So you eh, so let's go now to when you said that you told your wife, like, I'm done, and you want to run your own business. How did that play out from there? So did you literally just kind of stop going to work? Did you put in the 2 weeks, and then you said you didn't know really about you started looking up businesses, like what could you do? What was the process from there? What did you? I mean, maybe you had a savings or whatever. You bought you a DTG printer and you
Yeah,
just kind
I
of started from
we
there.
blew the savings. Like the last of what that's what I mean. When I went back to her and not so initially when I told her I quit, I had again my plan was I'll just get back into corporate. I'm burnt. I just need a break.
Mm-hmm.
So in that break, I start researching things, and like I said, that's where like screen printing really when you see anything about like the apparel business, usually that's the more popular. So I was seeing a lot of that. But with like YouTube and Google, whenever you're looking at a subject, next thing you know, they're sending you similar things that's coming up on your feed or here. I came across DTG. And again, like I saw countless hours of video on YouTube everywhere. And it didn't look hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to my wife and I go, look, I'm seeing this kind of printing. I've always liked fashion. Can I take the last 20,000 we have and like put it into this machine? And obviously she had all the questions any concerned partner would have, where,
Mm-hmm.
You don't know anything about this, where are you going to get your clients, how are you going to learn? And a lot of honesty, and that's why I say God bless her, man, she's an angel, because a lot of the answers to her questions for me were, I don't know. I was like, but you know me. Like, I have OCD, and I also have a very addictive personality. Everything I do it. It's either 1,000 miles an hour or I don't. So I told her, I was like, look, this will become my everything, researching, learning. And in that time, that's when my partner came in, because I started speaking with him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, look, if you want, so you don't have to do the whole 20,000 investment up front, I'll go half. We'll go half. And I was like, okay, like that might soften the blow with my wife that I'm not taking the last of what I have.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like how it all, came to be. So I researched a lot of different DTG machines. Again, not knowing anything and just reading on Google and watching videos. To me, Omniprint, which is the brand I have, seemed like the best fit for everything I was reading for me. Again, I could have been super wrong because I didn't know anything. So that's it. Like we ordered it, the thing came. In the meantime, and during it, I started doing what I call YouTube University. Anything about the apparel business, about DTG, graphic design, because I don't know how to, at the time, I didn't know how to make a design for a shirt or anything. So
Mm-hmm.
I just started YouTubing everything. So for like, even building our site, we used Shopify, and thank God that that's very sort of user friendly, because I am
Yeah.
the least techie person you will ever meet. And I just sat in my living room for about, after we ordered the machine, because it took like about a month or two to get here, I used those month or two, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week watching YouTube. Just teaching myself how to print, teaching myself how to make designs. And that's kind of, and then really in the beginning, it was, we blew through a lot of money in the
Mm-hmm.
sense of making mistakes on shirts, making mistakes on, doing the designs wrong. But again, like,
After that initial 20,000, how much would you say? How much would you say you guys blew through just trying to figure it out?
that we were kind of winging it as we went and spending money because again things started popping up that obviously I didn't see it on the YouTube video at the time, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I didn't really think it through about blanks and how much blanks cost. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't thinking of what's pre-treatment. I didn't know what that was,
Hmm.
and how expensive. Like even sheets, like we're talking hundreds, thousands of dollars a month of extra things that,
Right.
again, the videos were just showing me the machine. Like I
Right.
didn't even bother to think it through, like, inks, like all the supplies I guess you need to actually make that machine go. So
Right.
really there, what we started doing is, because I had blown through my savings pretty quickly. Like I would say 2.5, 3 months after that. And then it was just living off my credit cards, both paying bills and for like personal, but also things for the business that now I was learning as I went and cost money. And
Hmm.
again, thank God for my partner, because he's never been one when we need something or money's needed for the business, he's always there.
Nice.
And that, I wouldn't have been able to do it without him,
And he's
because
probably, I'm assuming he's probably working a
yeah,
job, right?
he's
Well, so
a
he's,
he's an iron worker in New York City up on skyscrapers. He'll send me
uh,
pictures, like, I don't know how he does this job, tied to a fucking beam. I sorry.
no, you're good.
And um so that's his day-to-day job. So,
So let's
like
let's let's say you didn't let's say you didn't have a partner, because again, my whole page is about people, and t-shirt printing. I feel like is such a big business right now. And when you look it up on YouTube, when I looked it up on YouTube, I see a lot of different people out there talking about it. Um, and so there's going to be people who watch this who are probably going to want to do the same thing that you're doing, but maybe they don't have the luxury of having a business partner. Let's say you didn't have your business partner. How do you think you would have fared on your own? How do you think that you would? Where would you be? I think right now. I mean, you think you would have made it, or you think it would have
I'm a
been more?
little in terms of, okay, I'll answer the would I have made it second, but in terms of what I would have done, again, I go off the seat of my pants for a lot of things and gut. If my partner wouldn't have come through and said, "Hey, want to go ahead?" I would have done it anyway. I would have taken, instead of spending 10 of my last 20, I would have spent the whole 20.
Hmm.
And I would have left it to, I'll figure it out day by day.
Hmm.
Again, probably not the smartest, but I would have done it. Now, would I have made it? I don't know. I could say that a lot of times he has saved us. If it was it for his share of money of things we needed, I don't know how we would have kept the lights on. So
Hmm.
I don't know. Like, I also have faith that if I would have had to work a go back and find work a job at night and not sleep to come up with the money that, let's say, my partner's helping me with, if that's what
Hmm.
I would have had to do, that's what I would have done. But thank God I do have my partner, because he's helped us make it to where we are. Because there's been times where we needed every cent that we've spent, and again, he's been half of all of it.
Hmm.
So that's been huge for me.
The other
Now, what I would
part.
tell other people though is,
Mhm.
like, obviously I learned now being in this, I would advise other people that want to do, let's say, what you're doing and what I do, find a company like mine that will print things for you, print on demand, let's say in the beginning, I think is a good way of getting into this, because you would put no money out, really. Let someone like me who already invested in the machines, let them print it for you. Yes, you make a little less than if you were doing it yourself, but there's really no upfront costs, because you, like I said, it would do a print on demand. So until someone bought something from you, you're using their money to pay me to do my part, and you're just really, it's almost like you're brokering. Like, so I think that would be the smarter way for people, let's say, who weren't lucky enough to have 20,000, to put out to
You,
start.
you, you're talking about if somebody has a brand that they want to put on apparel, you're saying that it's best for them to go through somebody like yourself, DTG printing, where you can kind of make apparel as you need it and not buy it in mass quantities and
Exactly, and not
store it on
have
the
to
shelf.
be like, let's say, like, say, like, for example, if I would have known what I know now, maybe instead of jumping into the 20 grand right off the rip, I
Hmm.
would have found another DTG printer and go, okay, look, I'm going to start Gush Apparel, and I will just sell shirts, and as I sell, I'll pay the DTG printer. And so in essence, I would have had no upfront cost. It's just my job would have been to sell my Gush apparel and then hire a printer to print for me. So I would say that would be a good way to go for someone who doesn't maybe want to shell out a huge lump in the beginning to
Hmm.
start their business or their brand. And then as they go and see how well it works and what works for them, you start saving, and then maybe invest, 15, 20, 30,000 into a DTG printer. But, it is what it is. I didn't start it that way. But look, I've in my life, I feel like when you make mistakes, when you sometimes do the things I've done, I learn like that. Like the mistakes and the things you go through, like that's how I learn. And the only thing I regret a little, it's hard seeing what you put your family through. Because my wife, she's gotten worried. There's been times in the beginning where we had 13 cents in the bank account. 13 cents, a grown up with kids, and like a bill due in 2 days. I get it. And so not that I regret it, but it's hard seeing your family see that and be stressed knowing that it was based on something you decided to do, like on the whim like that. But I also believe that everything happens for a reason, no matter good or bad. So God wanted that for me to do it that way. And that's how it had to be done, I guess. And I've learned a lot. I've worked a lot. But I'm extremely happy. I love doing what I do. I love working with brands like yourself and other business owners. It's just like, it's an awesome thing, man. When you see, like, if you help a brand when they're new, or when even you see a retail customer wearing something you did, like, I don't know, you get a lot of pride. Like, I get happy.
I think I think that there are a lot of people who are in your position who maybe they're not entirely happy with their job. Or maybe even if they are happy, they're just like, this is not what I want to do anymore. I want to do something on my own. And a lot of times no, I'm not dissing anybody at all, but a lot of times people don't have the guts to go for it the way you went for it. And when you go ahead in like that, you get an opportunity to experience everything and know firsthand, hey, this is what it takes to get it done. I think the best kind of learning method is experience. Just jumping in and doing it. You're right, though. In your sense, it's like financially, you have a family and everything, or somebody that relies on you for income. It is a lot more difficult, but you were able to jump head first. At what point? So 2 years ago, you start, and then you get your printer to start doing shirts. How did you start acquiring clients? How did you put yourself out there? What was that process like? Once you got the printer, how did you start thinking, okay, now I need to make money, and how did you do it?
Okay, my very first customers, and I knew these were the only customers I knew in advance, right? Our daughter's in cheer, and you go to all these cheer events, and cheer prints shirts for everything, for every tournament. So I figured it wasn't definite, but I figured I have at least the opportunity. I know that they do thousands of shirts a month, and I at least have an opening, which is my daughter comes here. I felt the owners will at least listen to me because my daughter comes here, and I'm going to try for that business. I'm also going to try. A lot of the moms, they'll do side things aside from the gym, and that's really what I targeted in the beginning. My wife helped me a lot because, she'd be there 3 times a week taking her daughter to cheer practice, and she'd be selling to all the other moms, and that's kind of like how it started. And I would just print for different tournaments, print for just as the cheer moms would hear. It wasn't necessarily just cheer stuff either. They're like, all right, can you print this for my son's birthday? Can you do? And it kind of started going, that way. Because, again, I didn't know anything about advertising. I didn't know anything about ads. I had no money for ads, even if I did. So everything was word of mouth. And it was kind of putting along, even with the cheer, like very putt-putting. And then about, I would say, 7 months in, a good friend of mine's wife who lives in the Northeast in Jersey, she's a photographer, and she's like, listen, I need shirts for my photography business, right? From that point on, that thing skyrocketed, because she takes a lot of pictures for event planners in that area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. And I guess that, I didn't know at the time, it's a very small community. Every balloon artist knows every photographer who knows every event planner. And once I did her, and then another like balloon artist, and they posted about it, next thing you know, other photographer, and then I would say about 80% of my business right now is event planners in the Northeast.
Really?
Like they really keep me in business, whether it's doing shirts for kids' parties at their events, whether it's their own business merch. And that's why I got really scared when COVID hit, because you
Mm.
know how you couldn't gather.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit, what am I going to do? I'm like, almost everything that comes in is through them. But I have to thank God, all that industry pivoted fast. Like they went from, you can't gather to, okay, we'll take these, we'll do drive-by birthday parties. We'll hold a thing. And it still then kept coming. And I actually got the busiest I've ever been has been through COVID.
Through COVID, really?
Through COVID. It's
Wow.
unbelievable. Unbelievable. Like, and I got to thank God because I thought, like, when obviously started hearing news of what this is and you can't go out, I'm like, oh my God, we're done. I'm like, these people can't throw parties. That's all my business. Like, who's gonna want to buy parties when people are losing their job? But again, that industry pivoted fast. They're very loyal. If you do a good job, you give them good customer service. Like they keep coming back and coming back and coming back. And thank God for all of them. They know how much I love them because they really keep my printing business going every single day.
Nice. And how long would you say? I don't know if you were specific with it, but from the time that you started, would you say that maybe you started seeing kind of a profit? I don't know if you still. I know you're a lot of money into it, so
Yeah.
maybe that's hard to say. But when you actually started feeling like, okay, I feel a little bit better about this. When was that point?
I would say about a year, like right about when COVID hit. That's it. Like between, and then that was another thing. I got into the masks, and then everybody was getting masks,
Mm.
so that became very profitable. So that's when we finally started turning the corner and like making a profit on things. Not a ton, but we started making it, and then every month got better than the previous. So I would say about a year in. We're still nowhere near where I want this company to be, but I am very blessed that in a year's time, I was able to start making a profit. A lot of business, it takes a while.
In that first year, how many times would you say you felt like just throwing in the towel?
Almost every day. Like, dude, when you work 17 hours a day and you're seeing no, okay, you know how like usually for however effort you put in, you kind of like see the reciprocation almost even like back.
Hmm.
Man, when you first get into this, or at least for me, the effort going out versus the money I saw coming in, I'm like, every day I'd think, what did I do? Did I make a mistake? Like,
Hmm.
no one's buying anything. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And again, the stress of the bills, a lot of times, I'm a pretty, I would say, confident person. I believe in my ability. I believe in I can make things happen. But when you throw in the stress of financial stress, it starts clouding a little bit like how you think, and to try to choose to still be positive under all that pressure of stress is hard sometimes. There
Hmm.
was many times my partner and me have probably had the conversation of that I'm do you want this business, I'm going to walk away. I would say the first year like 4 times, and he'd have to walk me off the ledge. Come on, bro, no, like nobody works harder than you, I know it, and I love him, and he'd be like, if you need money, I'll help you pay your bills. Like he's always been extremely like confident in me, has had my back from the beginning. So I think, and obviously my wife too. There's been times where we'll be talking at night and I'll tell her, look, I'm going to talk to Brandon, I'm going to leave. And she's like, don't do this. I know it's hard. Like, so you think about it almost every day, but
Yeah.
you got to just try. Look, if when I turn the corner of stopping to think about that question, when I said to myself, look, God sees what I'm doing here every single day. I am working my ass off. And I just feel, since he sees that, there's no way he's going to leave me.
Hmm.
So, one way or another, something is going to happen like each day. So, I worry about what's in front of me right now. And that's it. I don't worry about tomorrow's bills. I don't worry about, like, I just go after with everything I got, what I have in front of me today, and that's exactly what's happened. And I just choose to leave it in God's hands, and but not just in His hands, work my ass off. So between
Yeah.
me working my ass off and just having faith in Him, we've been good. I know we're gonna be good. So I kind of don't think about that anymore.
Um, I'm going to wrap up this interview here in the next few minutes. I just got to ask you everything you've gone through. I know right now at this point, it might be a little bit easier to say, no, I would have kept going. But everything that you've gone through in the beginning to now, would you change anything? Is there anything that you would have changed throughout this entire process?
Okay, my gut is to tell you no. Because I feel, again, since I believe so much in everything happens for a reason, this needed to happen. Like all this hard stuff going through it, I feel is preparing, like that kind of pressure of the financial and not knowing, I feel is preparing me for when I'm, let's say, 5 years down the road, when the company's at a much more massive scale. Like obviously with more responsibility, there's more pressure. So I feel like these are the training days. Like the days where I had 13 cents and how I handled the stress of that was training me for when I just have bigger problems later. Where
Mm-hmm.
I feel if I didn't go through that, maybe I would have crumbled down the road. Same thing with, when you start a business, you do everything yourself because
Mm-hmm.
you don't have money to pay anybody else. That's why, actually, see, Chief Everything Officer. And
Yeah.
every little thing I do is in there. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel that's also training me for later when I let go and I'm more of a higher level. But I'm glad that I still learn. Like, I'll be able, anybody that works for me, the one thing they'll always say at Gush, Gabe knows how to run every machine. Gabe knows everything I do, Gabe can do. And so I needed that to happen. The only reason I'd say that I would change one thing is really more on the behalf of my wife. Like that first year, man, like it was really hard, like real hard. And it broke my heart that she was that worried because of me.
Mm-hmm.
So for her, I would probably change that. I would have done it more smart like you, which is start your brand, keep my job, and then at a certain point when you feel you're there, that's it. But if it was only me, no, I wouldn't change anything. Like I needed to go through all that. I needed to be stressed like that. I needed that kind of almost soul crushing pressure because
Mm-hmm.
I feel for the things that are coming later, it's my training day today to be able to handle what's coming later.
Right. So another question, maybe a dumb question, but would you do it all over again if you had to?
Yes, without even thinking about it. I
I feel
love
like
what I
that's
do. I love meeting people like you. Like, I don't know, it's just more gratifying. Like, in corporate, there was a lot of people that worked on my teams that to this day I'm in communication with them, I'm friends with them. Like, you build a good relationship. But
mm-hmm.
let's say the gratification of your job, and where here, everything I do, whether when I print hoodies for you, shirts for you, other clients, and when they get it and they're souped up, like, I don't know, man, like, it's just extremely gratifying. I love what I do every single day. I've loved every customer I've had. I've really been very lucky that I haven't had any like pain in the ass clients. Like, I've been very blessed in that sense. Like, I work with awesome people, and that's another thing. I feel like running a business, I also have the right to work with who I want and I don't want.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that because I've surrounded myself with a bunch of customers that I just like them as people.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're a good dude. We've had good conversations, me and you, aside from like so if I didn't do this, I would have never met you. Like,
Right.
and so that part of it, like I love it, man. I feel like I don't only have clients, there's many clients where I'm gonna be lifelong friends.
Right.
And I think that's pretty dope.
That is cool, and I feel like that's so important. That's why I asked that. It's so important to know, like, would you do it again? Yeah, you would do it again because, again, there's so many people in your position, I think, who want to make that move, and you've advised, don't make the move the way I
Yeah,
made the move,
don't.
but go for it though. Nonetheless, go for it and give it a shot, and don't hold back because ultimately, even though you went through a mess of crap in that first year, and you're probably still going through it. You're extremely happy with what you do now and you enjoy what you do and you enjoy the interaction you have with people. And I think that me personally, especially with my brand, time over money, how you spend your time is so much better. Than I don't want to say than money, but it's just how you use your time, how you spend your time each and every day, and if you're happy with what you do and everything. I think that's so much more important because you have to be happy. I mean, your mental health has to come first, and the money will follow. And I think you're living proof with that. Also, I just want to say that in my time that I've worked with you for about a year. I think I've known you for about a year now. What's been awesome, and this is for anybody watching that might want to think about doing work with Gabe after watching this video. You've been so informative. You have so much patience. You're willing to sit there and talk with me about my options, and no matter how busy you are, how many clients you have, you make time to call me, and you sit there and you'll talk with me on the phone for a half hour about, hey, these are your options. This is what we can do. Hey, I messed up. I'm going to go ahead and fix that for you. You've always been right there willing to help, and I think that that's awesome because no matter how much time you have or don't have, you're like, I got to make time for my clients. So I really appreciate that. So for anybody watching, Gabe's the man.
Thank you, man. And look, I just approach it, and I think I've told you this. I treat any client or prospective the way I'd want to be treated if I called the business. And look, I learned a lot of things in the beginning, and look, you learn every day in this business, but I spent so much money and wasted so much time because I didn't have anybody to help me. If I could help someone even with one thing and they avoid what I had to go through, that to me is like rewarding. Like I don't want other people to go through what I went through. So if I could help in anything, it doesn't even have to be like, let's say necessarily about printing. If someone has a question about Shopify, like whatever I know, I'm willing to help somebody else because if it can make it easier for them, man, I would have begged for someone to help me. Because there was times where it's like, where am I going to find this out? And a lot of people, honestly, are greedy with their info. Especially if they do what, like, let's say, they're like, oh, no, but look, you're sort of my competitor. I'm like, come on, man. There's billions of T-shirts people buy. Like, I don't care about that. Like, and I've had people say to me, aren't you worried? Like, they'll steal your, go ahead, man. If that's what they feel they need to do, steal the business. Like, look, we all that print, we, in essence, do the same thing. The only thing I feel separates one from the other is how they feel when they work with you. Because a T-shirt's a T-shirt. Like if I sell you a Bella Canvas T-shirt and I print your design and so does the other guy, more than likely it's the same thing. So it's just about how you treat that person, how they feel working with you. So really you're selling yourself more than you are tees. So I just feel like as long as you treat customers that way, they'll be loyal to you. And the ones that don't, look, it is what it is.
Yeah. Do you have any last words or any advice that you can give somebody who's maybe looking to do what you're doing with T-shirt printing? Just real quick, anything that you want to say to those people?
Yeah, sure. For sure. Like I said, don't do it the way I did it. That it makes it a lot harder than it needed to be. So I would say whether it's a company like mine or just another company, let them do the printing in the beginning. Let yourself learn as you go. Then separate yourself from your job. But I definitely, if anyone is out there thinking about doing this, it's a very rewarding job. It's a fun job. Every day is different. You meet a bunch of different people, a lot of good background stories to each brand or person that you meet. Yeah. So, but for sure, avoid adding extra stress on yourself that doesn't need to be there by doing what I did.
Right. And for anybody that wants to connect with you, wants to work with you, wants to get shirts, sweaters, whatever, where can they find you?
So they have a few ways. They could either go to our site directly, which is www.gushapparel.com. They could go on Instagram, and it's @gushapparel, or Facebook, same name, Gush Apparel. DM me, text me, WhatsApp me, email me, call me. Doesn't matter. I'm working all the time, and I'm glad to help anybody that needs help. And so that's all the different ways you can get a hold of us.
Cool. And everything that I know, I'm going to go ahead and put links below underneath the video so people can reach out to you if they need to. Gabe, again, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for sitting down with me and talking with me about this. And this is really helpful. And it's just really interesting to talk to people like yourself and everything that you've been through. Honestly, I could probably sit here with you for like another hour and just keep going on everything because it really is interesting. But I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. And good luck with your business. I hope that it keeps going.
Thank you, man. And I appreciate not only you, have worked with me and trusting me to print the things for your brand, but also this. Like, I know you could have interviewed anybody, so honestly, it's very humbling, and I appreciate it.
No doubt, man. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. And yeah, thanks, Gabe.
Thanks,
See you,
brother.
man.
Have a good night. Talk to you
You
later.
too. See you, man.